Welcome back to my belated annual Oscar series wherein I take a look at all the Oscar categories, rank each nominee based on who I think deserves to win, and then make my official prediction of who I think will win the Oscar. Of course, now I'm talking about the Oscars from last year because I didn't get to do it then, but I'm gonna keep going, and now I'm gonna talk about another technical award in the visuals division, and that is Best Costume Design. And the nominees are Carol, Sandy Powell; Cinderella, Sandy Powell; The Danish Girl, Paco Delgado; Mad Max Fury Road, Jenny Beavan; and The Revenant, Jacqueline West. Now, I think this list of nominees is actually pretty good, except for one in particular, and that will end up in my number 5 with regards to which movie I think deserved to win the Oscar. So at number 5, I am putting The Revenant. Of all the Revenant's nominations from last year, this was the one I really did not think it deserved. I mean, sure, the costumes in The Revenant are realistic and they're accurate to the time period, but there really isn't a lot of difference among everyone's outfits that really distinguishes like one character from another. And in all honesty, it's really just tougher to be impressed by rags than specific outfits tailor-made for certain characters, which is what the other movies in this list do. So moving on to number 4, I have The Danish Girl. And the outfits in The Danish Girl are great, don't get me wrong. Just because it's at number 4 doesn't mean I don't love the costume design here, because I do. The costumes here obviously have a function in the story, especially with regard to how Eddie Redmayne's character changes his outfits as he transitions from being a man to a woman. So the costumes in The Danish Girl do what costume design has done for film in for a very long time, which is to reflect identity as Eddie Redmayne's character grows into who he or she really thinks she is. The costumes reflect that decision as well. The reason why this movie ends up at number 4 for me is that I really wish they highlighted this aspect of costume design more in the story itself, to really focus on the costumes, to really bring it over the edge. Unfortunately for me, the quality of the film itself does sort of affect my perception of these individual elements. I know that's kind of unfair, but the fact that The Danish Girl isn't a great film, it's a good movie, but the fact that it's not that great means the costume design, in my opinion, doesn't, maximize its real quality. So that's why it's at number 4. Now at number 3, I have Carol. There's really something just so inherently classy and romantic about costumes from the 50s. This is, by the way, the first of 2 nominations for Sandy Powell in this same category. But yeah, her outfits that she did for Carol, at least for Cate Blanchett and Rooney Mara, do also reflect these characters' personalities and how they've kind of bundled up their sexuality from the world. And as the story progresses and as they shed their clothes and really kind of show themselves to each other, they really kind of embrace their sexuality more and embrace their love for each other more. So I really think the costumes in Carol do that really, really well. Now at number 2, I have the other Sandy Powell film nominated here, and that is Cinderella. Cinderella is one of the few films I would really describe as costume design porn, but it's still, a really good movie. I really enjoyed the Cinderella remake. And what is so great about it in terms of costumes is that there's so much emphasis placed on the costumes, which are ridiculously detailed and really just stunning. Like, I almost never notice costume design while I'm watching a movie, but Cinderella, you just can't ignore it, and the costumes really are just so great. There are lots of fun outfits in the movie as well that represent the animals that some of these people used to be. And the costumes do also reflect personalities, especially with the 2 wicked stepsisters and Cate Blanchett again as the evil stepmother. But the scene that almost took the Oscar, in my opinion, in Cinderella is the dress transformation scene when Ella goes from her kind of tattered ball dress into like the fantastic gown, which really, like, that scene, I know people who cried during that scene because it's so beautiful to look at, and the clothes themselves like really are great. So Cinderella gets number 2 for a very good reason. But at number 1, of course, again, I am giving it to Mad Max Fury Road. And while some people might say that the costumes in Mad Max are somewhat similar to The Revenant, I think they're sort of different for the same reason why I thought this movie deserved to win Best Makeup and Hairstyling, because the costumes say so much about the world where Mad Max is set, and the culture of the characters, of them scavenging and making things from scratch. And again, just so many of these looks for these characters are instantly iconic, especially with the villains in the film. If you look at Immortan Joe, he's just downright terrifying with his mask and his big bodysuit. The Bullet Farmer has like a really cool look to him. The Doof Warrior, of course, is the best. He's the guy who's playing the dual neck guitar that shoots flames, and he's wearing like a red jumpsuit. Like, all of these villains have great kind of comic book character looks to them, and they're just so fun to look at, and they're incredible. And my official prediction as to who would win the Oscar was also Mad Max Fury Road, and I got that right as well. I just really felt that the uniqueness of the costumes in Fury Road was going to be too much for the Academy to ignore. And yeah, I was right. 90% of the storytelling in Mad Max Fury Road is visual, and I think the costumes really contribute to it. And that's why I felt that the Academy would give it recognition. Alright, so those are my thoughts on the costume design category from last year. What did you guys think of the nominees? Who did you think should have won? Who did you think was going to win? Whatever you guys thought, whether you agree with me or not, please leave me a comment. Let's have a conversation.